My dream was always to get my own place. Ever since I was in high school, I really couldn't wait to move out because I hated my dad growing up and my mom wasn't much better. We would always butt heads and my dad would always be drunk on the weekends. Honestly, it was just a mess. As I got older and girls obviously became a factor, it became even more of a problem because there was no way I'd bring any girls back to that household. So I took the first chance I could get and moved out when I was 19, in college. I didn't go away to school. I went to a commuter college not far from home. I was on Zillow, Facebook, and Craigslist every day for a while. And when I finally found a rental that looked promising and affordable, I went to see it right away. I was sold immediately, especially because it was budget friendly. I moved in the next month and life was fine. Fast forward a few months, I went out with friends in town and we ran into some girls we knew. I ended up taking this girl home that I'd known for a while through school, but we'd never hung out in that way. I'll just call her Sammy. We ended up drinking at my place and watching a movie, but that was really all we did. She didn't want to take it further than that on our first time hanging out, and I respected that. We ended up in the bedroom finishing the movie that we started in the living room. And I think we both just passed out from being drunk somewhere through the movie. The next thing that happened was I woke up 2 footsteps outside in the hallway. It was still the middle of the night. I looked to my side and I was alone in the bed. I jumped out of bed looking down the hallway. And I saw Sammy in the living room grabbing her stuff off the couch, but she was doing so quietly. She was trying to leave now to avoid the awkwardness in the morning. And I understood that, so I didn't say anything and went back to bed quietly. I heard her eventually walk out the front door. For good measure, I called out Sammy to no response, and that confirmed she was gone. I got comfortable in bed relatively quickly and drifted back off to sleep. It was probably another hour that passed when I woke to something loud. I immediately shot up in my bed and my heart started pounding relatively quickly. I called out Sammy again. There was no response. I was honestly kind of scared to get up and check. So I picked up my phone and texted Sammy's number asking if she was still in my house. I realized that was a little weird to do, but I was actually scared in that moment. I looked at the door, which was still open because I was too lazy to get up and shut it after Sammy left. I was definitely still a little drunk from the shots we were taking in the living room, but I felt like I saw something wrapped around the doorframe. My breathing only intensified. I still can't believe I had the balls to do this. But I swiped down on my iPhone to reveal the control panel and I pressed the flashlight button. And with the phone still pointed at the doorframe, I realized there were 2 hands wrapped around the doorframe. But as if responding immediately to being revealed, whoever's hands they were tightened and then pulled back out of sight. And the scream I was holding in for those 3 seconds finally came out, mixed with simply screams of dread. I also screamed, "Get out! Get out!" over and over. By the time I finally got up, I looked down the hallway. It looked empty. I flipped on the light immediately. After a few minutes of calming my breathing and just trying to listen for sounds, I built up the courage to check the hallway closets and bathroom, and they were clear. I then moved to the main living area, and trust me, there weren't any places to hide in there. I held my phone as if it were a gun as I crept to the nearest light switch and turned it on. I felt instantly better when the living space was lit up, but there was still the kitchen. I crept to the opening that led to the kitchen and flicked that light on as well, finally lighting up the entire apartment. There was no one here. I looked behind the couch. I looked under the tables. I even checked the floor-level kitchen cabinets. When I realized it was clear, I ran to the front door to lock it. The weird thing, though, was that I never heard the front door close, and yet there was not a single soul except for me in there. I now tried calling Sammy repeatedly until she picked up. When she did, she sounded tired and confused. I asked her if she was just in my house, and she told me she left a while ago because she couldn't sleep. I didn't explain, I just told her my bad. I thought I heard a noise and then we hung up. I decided to spam call my best friend until he picked up, also sounding tired and confused. I explained everything that just went down and he said he could tell I was still drunk. His explanation calmed me down though. He said I was sleep deprived and still drunk and I had a mid-wake up hallucination. It made a little sense actually, considering I never heard the front door shut. I eventually could laugh it off and apologize for waking him up. I went back to my room, shut and locked the door, and I actually calmed myself down enough to fall asleep. The next morning I did another search around the apartment and it was without a doubt clear. So I went on with my day. But at some point, I thought back to that supposed hallucination I had of those hands wrapped around the doorframe the night before. I walked to my room and examined the doorframe, and I think my heart stopped for a moment when I saw obvious fingerprints left in the exact positions. The hands I saw in the doorframe had been. I felt dizzy coming to the realization that it wasn't a hallucination. I took this picture of it, which I still have in my iCloud years later. I resorted to calling my dad for advice, and he more or less called me a buffoon for not locking the door. But as long as nothing was stolen and no one was there anymore, take it as a valuable learning lesson. Honestly, nothing my dad said on that phone call was untrue. That's what sucks. I don't know who the hell came into my apartment that night, and I don't know why they chose to do the literal creepiest thing they could have possibly done. But after my year-long lease was up, I moved on and upgraded apartments and never looked back.